So this chapter opens up 39 years ago, which is like the time of the God Valley incident. That's because, like, I'm pretty sure the next chapter we're actually going to see what happened in the God Valley incident finally. It's also revealed that Shaki had been kidnapped from Hachinosu, and that Don Marlin had been killed. Like, I guess he was trying to protect her or something, which is, you know, cool. Rest in peace, GOAT. Now here's the part where I messed up. I'm sorry. And I'm sure you guys were really upset at me for this. I didn't really notice what I had did until I actually read the chapter. So it turns out that traitor is Ochoko. And I was like, oh, that's Silver Axe. Because, you know, I'm an idiot. And I was just like associating Ochoko with Silver Axe being the same person. Ochoko is this like weird looking guy with the tongue and the neck. It's not Silver Axe. I'm sorry, Silver Axe. I didn't mean to accuse you of kidnapping Shaki and selling out Rock's pirates. You're still cool. You might even be Das Bones' dad. That would be cool. Anyway, Ochoko is this weird guy. He kidnapped Shaki, sold her to the world government, and then he got money in return. And going off of what we know about the Rocky Port incident, he apparently was running Hachinosu after everything was said and done. Like after the God Valley incident where it's implied that Rox dies, I hope he doesn't, we'll see. But there was like a power vacuum, obviously, and I guess Ochoko took over that power vacuum and then kind of just ran Hachinosu until the Rocky Port incident, which I think happened during the time skip. You know, in between Marineford and Fishman Island. I could be wrong about that. But it was like Kobe was there, Law was there, and Blackbeard was there, and Blackbeard wind up killing Ochoko. And now we know why. It's because he did all this stuff. He screwed over the Rock's pirates, stole Shaki. So this was like a long time revenge coming. Also goes into the theory that Rox is inside of Blackbeard. We'll talk about that at the end of the chapter. We already talked about it before, but there's like another thing that I want to mention with that because I think it is pretty interesting. But anyway, Shaki being kidnapped here is partly the catalyst for the God Valley incident, or everyone converging there. Partly, not the main reason. There's other factors, of course. But Shaki being kidnapped was like a really big deal at this time. She was like, you know, like the Sabrina Carpenter of her time, or the Taylor Swift of her time, essentially. Like, you know, super popular. Everybody knows her. Everybody wants her. Like, apparently even the economy was suffering when she got kidnapped. Anyway, it turns out that she's going to be like a prize at God Valley. More so kind of just being set up to be Garling's wife. Because if you win the hunting game at God Valley, then you get to have Shaki as your wife or slave. I mean, the whole hunting game is just killing innocent civilians in their own home country. But Garling is like the most powerful guy that the Celestial Dragons have. At least it's implied. Besides like the Gorosei Emu. So it's guaranteed that he's essentially going to win. But we know that Shaki doesn't marry him, so something happens and Shaki winds up in Sabaody with Rayleigh. But anyway, speaking of Garling, we're coming back to him, and he's coming to God Valley again because, you know, he's setting up the whole hunting game and everything, and he runs into Shanks and Shamrock's mom. The implication here is that he kind of knocked her up and then dipped, you know, which is pretty realistic, I guess. And Shanks and Shamrock's mom is like asking him to like, hey, why don't you live here with us? Look, you know, you have twins. Shamrock didn't even know he had twins. And he's like, oh, that's cute. They're adorable. And he's like, nah, I'm not living here. This place sucks. Also, we're going to like destroy it. And I'm marrying like someone way hotter than you. And then he just stabs her. Yeah. Garling. Man, he's going for that number one most despicable villain spot in the series, which is really impressive because we have a lot of despicable villains in this series. And Garling, man, he might, I don't know, is he number one right now? This has to be the most evil thing I've ever seen in this series. And I don't know, is he more evil than Doflamingo, Kaido, Emu? I mean, we only have implications of what Emu has done, but Garling, I mean, he like, no soul, no face, no expression, just stabbed her like he was killing like a fly or something. I don't know, maybe people even have more emotion killing insects than that. But anyway, like we talked about before, this was guaranteed to happen to Shanks and Shamrock's mom because she is a mother in this series, and the only mother that gets to live is Big Mom, even though she died. But especially the mothers of important characters. They must die, whether they're killed or they die of some illness. They're not allowed to live. We're not allowed to know anything about them. I mean, Shanks and Shamrock's mom, we don't even see her face. And we probably won't. I just hope it's revealed that she's a D, because that would mean that, like, you know, Shanks and Shamrocks are half Celestial Dragon, half D. They would be the only individuals that we know of in the series that are that combination. And I guess it would go more into what Rayleigh was saying to Shanks in the beginning of this flashback. You know, the day when King Harold was killed, they were, like, bathing, and Rayleigh called Shanks the Child of Destiny. And I thought, oh, is it because he's half D, half Celestial Dragon? Or is it just because Roger found him? Anyway, we're coming to God Valley now, and we're seeing, like, the world government ships, the marine ships, all coming there to set it up. They're bringing slaves so, you know, they can get killed. And, you know, the Marines and just the security, everything's coming there. But it turns out that we're seeing young Dragon here. Monkey D. Dragon, father of Luffy, leader of the Revolutionary Army. We're finally getting to see what he was like as Marine. And yeah, he was still very much goth at this point in time. Has the eyeliner, very stoic, you know. Because, you know, we talked about this before. Like, in the Monkey D family, Dragon is like the goth, you know, brother or whatever. The goth cousin, son. I don't know. Because, you know, Garp and Luffy are very similar, but he's Dragon. But we're seeing at this point in time, he's just like a recruit. And he's, like, talking back to his superior, like, because he doesn't understand, like, why they're doing this. I mean, granted, like, they're setting up innocent people to be killed, like, executed for the purpose of a game. I mean, I don't know if he fully understands what's going on yet, but he just knows that he needs to get all of these, like, citizens at God Valley, like, round up. So, obviously, he's not trying to hurt them. He's just using tranquilizers, and it's like, hey, you know, if you don't resist, we'll just, you know, take you into custody and that's it. Anyway, it just goes to show that Dragon, he was always a good guy. Better than Garp, because Dragon, as we know, eventually leaves the Marines. I'm pretty sure he leaves after whatever happens at the God Valley incident, because there's going to be some sus stuff going on for sure. Garp stays, but Dragon leaves. So depending on what Dragon does, he might have a great redemption here. It was easy to rag on Dragon all of these years because he never does anything, and I don't know, he kind of sucks, to be honest, but maybe he doesn't. I want him to be cool. So anyway, now everybody is going to God Valley. You know, Rox obviously knows that Shocky had been kidnapped, and he's on his way to go save her. Roger finds out, he's on his way. You know, Roger's in love with Shocky. And then when Garp finds out that Roger's going, he's like, all right, bet, I'm going, because Garp loves Roger the way that, like, Rox loves Harold. And as Rox is on his way to God Valley, he runs into Harold's ship, Speak of the Devil. Harold was apparently, I don't know, like the gatekeeper at this point, like sent to intercept Rox. There's like even marine ships here making sure that Harold does the deed. And instead of fighting, they wind up just talking. And they share sake as they talk. And I think this is supposed to, not even think, this is for sure supposed to directly parallel to the meeting that Roger and Whitebeard had. I think it was a little bit before Roger was publicly executed, right? It was after he had discovered Laughtail and everything, and he wound up meeting with Whitebeard. And they shared sake and they talked, and I think it was in that instance when he told Whitebeard his real name was Gold D. Roger. I'm pretty sure, right? He also told him about the One Piece, but like Whitebeard didn't want to know about it. But same thing happening here. Rox telling Harold that his real name is Davy D. Zebek, because he comes from the Davy family lineage, which goes back to Davy Jones 800 years ago, which is the Void Century. And Davy Jones this whole time was a D. Pretty fascinating stuff, right? We talked about Davy Jones ad nauseum at this point. Well, we'll talk about him one more time. The first time I think we hear about him is in Long Ring, Long Land. Say that 18 times fast. Robin mentions him. I don't even know if they say this in the anime. I think it just might be in the manga. But Robin says Davy Jones is a pirate from long ago who was cursed by the devil to live in the depths of the seafloor, where it is said he yet lives to this day. Any sunken ships or treasure get locked away in Davy Jones' locker. So that's really interesting, right? It makes you think, like, is that literally what had happened? Is he still alive down there? Don't know, but being cursed by the devil, I think 100% means Emu. Emu is the devil in this series. Sea devil, devil, whatever. It's always been Emu, in my opinion. And Emu did something to curse Davy Jones because Davy Jones was a D, and I'm sure he was working actively to take Emu down the same way that Joy Boy was. Because at this point, Davy Jones was the Blackbeard of the Void Century, the way that Joy Boy was the Luffy of the Void Century. Both Ds. It's even possible they were brothers. But considering that they were both Ds and how the two D lineages or the two D lines like diverge, you know, we've got superhero good guy Luffy and we've got anti-hero Blackbeard. Same thing with Rox and Roger. It seems like they're both working towards the same goal. Joy Boy and Davy Jones back in the day trying to overtake Emu and the Celestial Dragons and all that stuff, but they just couldn't agree. And they both decided to go in their own ways. One will led to Luffy and one will led to Blackbeard. Now, Rox also reveals that Blackbeard, who we knew that he had just recently had with some unnamed woman, is now 2 years old now, and that they live on God Valley. He like put them there to keep them safe. But also, Rox himself comes from God Valley, which is super fascinating. We still don't know why God Valley is important. We know that it has a lot of natural resources and all that stuff, but there's a reason it's called God Valley. There's a reason why that big split is in that pillar mountain thing. So it's very likely that that's where Joy Boy and Davy Jones had something. Maybe that was like their Hachinosu or something, you know, possibly. So this is like the other reason why Rox is going to God Valley. He's trying to protect his family, which means that Blackbeard is going to be at the God Valley incident. And his mom is too, and she's probably going to die. But Blackbeard obviously doesn't die. And this might be where we see, through somehow, Rox puts his soul into Blackbeard and continues to live on. And it could have already happened already. Davy Jones could have already put his soul into Rox somehow. I don't know how. There's tons of possibilities. Let me know in the comments. Could be some kind of hockey soul manipulation. There could be some kind of devil fruit trickery going on. Personality switch stuff. Who knows? We'll find out if it even is a thing. And I say that because, you know, that was like the biggest theory for the longest time. Blackbeard had 3 souls in him, the 3 skulls. Now we know the 3 skulls for sure is Davy Jones, Rox, and Blackbeard. But it's like, to what degree does that mean, you know? Are they literally inside of him? Because it does seem like Blackbeard's personality changes sometimes. Like, when he's talking to Luffy on Jaya, like in that first sequence when they meet after the whole cherry pie thing, you know, the whole thing where he's like, pirates' dreams never die. That could very likely be Rox. Like, if you told me right now, or if Oda was like, yeah, that was Rox talking, I would be like, of course it was. That's Rox. Because sometimes when we see Blackbeard, he's just like a sniveling little coward, which is fine. I'm not against that. But it's just, it would be cool if Rox is still alive. He's the best character in the series. But anyway, after that, Harold just lets Rox go. Obviously, he was supposed to fight him and stop him, but, you know, he's like, look, I can't join you and help you at God Valley, but my last act of kindness to you for our weird friendship that we've had is that I'll just let you go. Go ahead. And he does. And Rox goes on to God Valley. And coming into the end of the chapter here, we see, as we talked about, Shaki is being displayed as the prize for God Valley. The winner of the tournament will get her. We're seeing the other Holy Knights there, like a young Summers too. Coming into the end of the chapter, we see Dragon going to where Blackbeard and his mother are being held. They are slaves at God Valley right now. They've already been captured. And Blackbeard's mother, talking to Dragon, is like, take my son, get him out of here. Don't let him fall into that guy's hands. Not sure who she's talking about. I don't think she's talking about Rox. But we find out that besides Shaki, the other prize is Teach himself. Because they know that he is from the Davy D clan that went back to the Void Century. Apparently he's the last surviving member besides Rox. And this very likely could be what Garling was talking about, that he found at God Valley. The last remnants of the Davy clan. Right? Because he said, hey, I found something at God Valley that Emu would like. It's got to be that. I mean, it could be something else, but it seems likely. Anyway, let me know. What do you think about this in the comments, guys? All the theories, all that stuff. If you like the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.